Hi everyone, I'm Anthony Goldbloom. I'm the CEO of Kaggle, and as of, actually it was at this event 2 years ago that we announced that Kaggle was joining Google. So the Google Next has a sort of a nice sentimental, it's sentimental for us. Just a quick show of hands, how many of you have heard of Kaggle before? Well, I guess that's why you're here. How many of you have a Kaggle account? Oh, nice, this is good. How many of you have either submitted to a competition, written a kernel, or downloaded a data set? Okay, cool. So hopefully the percentage got a little bit lower towards the end, but hopefully this is so exciting that by the end of this talk, you're all dying to do all three of those things. So we run as our own brand and our own team within Google. You can think of us, you can think of us as, we're a very large machine learning community. We have 2.8 members, and actually we were 840,000 when we joined Google 2 years ago. And so our growth is sort of a reflection of how machine learning has grown and evolved. And so one of the things we think a lot about is how do we give our community, we're a platform neutral community, and so people can use whatever they like, but Google has a lot, one of the really nice things about partnering with Google is Google is, my opinion, the world's best data analytics machine learning company, and Google Cloud is really moving towards being the best cloud for data analytics and machine learning. And so one of the things that we've been starting to experiment with a little bit is what are the ways that we can give the Kaggle community exposure to Google and Google Cloud tools. And so we're just at the beginnings of this journey. A lot of our first couple of years at Google have been focused on aligning with Google infrastructure, security and privacy policies. As a small startup, you have a different stance on things like GDPR to a company like Google. And now that a lot of that work is behind us, we're thinking a lot about what are the ways that, what are the things that Google has that would be very exciting to our community. And so Rachael is going to give you a bit of a sense for some of the early things that we have done. And then, as Rachael said, there's a Dory, so we're very happy to take questions about, what are the kinds of things we're thinking about and what sort of things might be coming. So I'm going to hand it over to Rachael.
Thank you. And if you haven't used any of the Dories before, it should be in the app under this session. There's a little Q&A button. And if you hit that, you can answer questions, and we'll try to save a nice big chunk of time at the end. Because I know Kagglers are the best, and you guys always have lots of questions, and I want to make sure we have time to address those. So I think most of you know what Kaggle is based on the show of hands. The thing that I first and foremost think about when I think about Kaggle is the community. It's really a technical, professional community where people who are entering the space or have been working for a while can make friends, hang out, hone their skills, learn things, share resources. And eventually we want to be able to support you in doing all of your data science work on Kaggle. What's on Kaggle? People, lots of people. I know I mentioned the community a lot, but I think Kagglers are the best. We've got over 2.7 million users at this point. I think we have around 300,000 people who log in every month to write kernels or download data sets or enter competitions. We also have 15,000 public data sets. So these are data sets that we've uploaded, or mostly that users have uploaded that they want to share. So things they've collected, research data sets, and we'll talk a little bit about some examples of those. And we also have a really large body of scripts and notebooks. So this is code for doing different tasks. And you can, of course, work privately, keep your data private, keep your code private. But people really are very generous with their work and share it and walk people through how to do various machine learning tasks. So if you're trying to do, something kind of common, let's say sentiment analysis or object detection, probably somebody's already written a kernel that you can go give a little upvote to. You want to make sure you upvote useful kernels, and then fork. And you don't have to start from scratch. You can use this pipeline that somebody else has already built, and it's a huge time saver. I am always using other people's Kaggle kernels to get my work started. So we're probably best known as a competitions platform. That's sort of how we got our start, and we absolutely still do that. But these days, Kaggle is a lot more than competitions, and I want to highlight some of the things that we've done recently, some of the changes. So the Kaggle product that I personally probably use the most is kernels. What are kernels? I mean, they're like 18 different things in data science and computer science. So Kaggle kernels are a hosted in-browser coding environment. So we support Jupyter Notebooks. That's by far the most popular. We support the Python 3 and R kernels. We do not support Python 2. And we also have scripts. So these are flat files, and we support Python, R, and also R Markdown. So if you're any R Markdown fans out here? Yeah, I'm a big fan of Markdown. So you can write and run Markdown on Kaggle, and then you have a nice link that you can share with people. Or, I mean, of course, download and use Blogdown or Bookdown or Slidedown or whatever else you're using in the ecosystem. And we also have, once you've created your kernels, a really nice way to share it. You make it public. You can post about it on the forums. If you haven't been on the site in a while, we now have a personalized news feed. So we've sort of like algorithmically picked some kernels that we think might be exciting for you, or competition announcements we think you might like. So you can always see what's new and happening and people are talking about. And there's a progression system for kernels and datasets as well as for competitions. So upvoting other people's datasets and kernels, upvoting other people's forum posts and kernels helps them progress in the competition system and say, hey, the community values my work. That's just a nice thing to learn about, that others value your work, or to let people know that you appreciate what they do. So here is an example kernel that is a little bit small that I wrote, and this is an R kernel. I like R. I also use Python. And this shows you how to read in a WAV file and create a spectrogram. And if you're not familiar, spectrograms are a time, frequency, intensity transformation of audio files. It's a way to visualize sounds, basically. And this shows you the sounds of ground parrots, which are an Australian parrot that lives on the ground. And a bioacoustics researcher just uploaded a data set of calls that they'd recorded from these parrots. And I was like, I've got an acoustics background. I think that's kind of interesting. So I just whipped up a little visualization to show what they looked like. And if somebody else wanted to do spectrograms, we do have a sound-based competition going on right now. You could copy this kernel, fork this kernel, to read in a different data set, remove the data set that I'd used, and just reapply this code to a new data set. So I mentioned collaborations and discussions. Our forums are super duper duper active. It's a really great place to ask technical questions to a community of other data scientists. And of course, there's lots of places to do that. There's Stack Overflow, there's Stats Exchange. But particularly around machine learning, deep learning, machine learning engineering, the Kaggle community is really great and supportive. And we also have events. So some of those are in person, and some of those are digital. So an example of an in-person event is Kaggle Days. This is a picture of everybody who went to Kaggle Days Paris, which was a little while ago. We're currently actually having a Kaggle Days right now in conjunction with Next, which I'm afraid is full. So if you didn't sign up ahead of time, catch us next year. And it's been really great. We've gotten talks by grandmasters. People have run workshops. We're doing a little on-site competition that people are working on right now with manufacturing prediction, defect detection. And it's been a really fantastic way to meet people face-to-face, because you spend so much time chatting with them online. Or maybe you just sort of like see them going past in the forums, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I could ever approach them. And it's been really great to meet people face-to-face. So if you're interested in coming and hanging out with Kagglers, keep an eye out for Kaggle Days. And we also have online events. And we know that we have a lot of users in different parts of the world for whom it may not be reasonable to get to, say, Paris or San Francisco. So we really want to make sure that we're reaching everybody and we're really being accessible. And even if you are in the US and you have small children and can't travel, we want to make sure that you can still grow professionally as a data scientist. So one of the things that we're doing next week, actually, and you can still sign up for this, is CareerCon, and this is a completely digital event to help you land your first data science job. So I'm doing an educational event as part of this to help people who've never made an API make an API from scratch. We're going to talk about Open API. You may know it as Swagger. We're going to build a little Flask app. We're going to serve it. We're going to go through the process. So you can have something to show on your portfolio or your resume and say, hey, sure, I'm a data scientist and I'm really good at machine learning, but also I know a little bit about what software engineers do, and I can play well with them and my new teammates, and you should hire me, and I'm great. Data. I was actually originally hired to be on the datasets team, and we used to, like the Kaggle team, individually go and find interesting datasets under open licenses and upload them to Kaggle. We don't need to do that anymore because our community has been so fantastic about sharing data, research data, just people who have questions that they would like to get in front of machine learning researchers that they've collected the data for. And if you have data that you would like to share, I would encourage you to put it on Kaggle, assuming that we can support your specific needs. For example, we cannot support HIPAA compliance. Please don't give us HIPAA data yet. So here are some example data sets that the team actually automatically maintains. And these are open data sets that we think might be useful in your day-to-day work. So some things, there's one in here that's San Francisco restaurant scores, like their health scores. So if you're trying to decide where to go for dinner and you want to do a quick little data analysis to make sure you pick the right place, that might be something you can work on. But we've also had some really fantastic user-uploaded data sets. So you guys might be familiar with KMNIST. It was uploaded by a couple of our users, including Anarchus, who's our youngest grandmaster currently. I'll see you. And it is a drag and drop replacement for MNIST, which is a digit recognition data set. Is anyone not familiar with MNIST? Yeah, some people. OK, so it's a data set for recognizing handwritten digits like 1 through 0. This is the same thing, but for Japanese classical texts. So this team put together this data set. They released it on Kaggle, and they actually presented a paper about it at NeurIPS, which is what NIPS is called now. I'm not saying putting data sets on Kaggle will get you NeurIPS papers, but it's a really good place to find interesting research data sets that's specifically tailored towards the machine learning community, which is fantastic. We also had, relatively recently, a farmer who wanted to train a drone to spritz, what's it called? Not pesticide, but like for plants. Fertilizer? No, the other one. Herbicide, thank you, herbicide on a specific weed that he had. So he'd gone through his field and he took like a bunch of pictures of the specific weed he wanted to target and uploaded them so that people could try their hand at a really fun, practical application. So there's lots to discover in data sets. I love just like going through there and seeing what people have uploaded. And finally, Kaggle is a great place to challenge yourself. Of course, we have competitions. They are, as you might imagine, competitive. We've got many going on right now. We've got image, usually text. We've got a sound one going on right now. So whatever it is you're interested in, as long as it's supervised, we'll probably have something that might tickle your fancy. But we also have a lot of support for people who are learning, who are newer to the data science space, who maybe just aren't compelled to compete or don't find that particularly motivating. I personally tend to be more motivated by finding out new things than doing like, oh, got to get that last hundredth of a digit of accuracy. And that's just, my personal learning style. So here is an example competition. I know I've talked about CareerCon a lot, but I'm really excited, you guys. Here's a competition that we're going to be doing as part of CareerCon on robot navigation. So if you're interested in sort of agent-based stuff, this might be one for you to take a little look at. And we also have a growing number of Learn courses. And these are not going to take you from, completely through the math in a very detailed way. Our goal with Learn is to get you started very quickly with practical examples. So these are short, they're condensed, and we want you to be able to go through them in, say, an afternoon and then be able to apply what you've learned. So this is one that's relatively new on machine learning explainability that Dion Becker recently released. So if that's something that you're interested in, sit down, spend a few hours, work through some hands-on examples, and no more. Maybe, unless you're already researching machine learning explainability, in which case I don't know why you'd take a course in it. So that's what's on the platform. I also want to talk about some of our Google integrations that we've already added. And something that I was doing as I was putting together this talk was really sitting down and thinking, how will these be helpful? What specific people can I see really benefiting from these integrations? Because we want to make sure that we're doing things that people can take with them and enjoy and improve their work with. So 3 things that we've added relatively recently. One is an integration with Data Studio. Who has used Data Studio? Okay, a fair number of people. We've also added an integration with BigQuery and also Google Sheets, which I'm actually very excited about, and I'll talk about why. I know people like to dunk on like spreadsheet software, but it's a great tool, you guys. Spreadsheets are great. All right, Data Studio. So we have a little GIF here that's apparently starting in the middle for some reason. Interesting. So you can click on any Kaggle dataset and launch with just a couple button clicks once you've connected your Data Studio account, a Data Studio dashboard based on that data. If you're not familiar with it, Data Studio is a way to visually analyze data. It's really nice for creating dashboards in particular. And one use case where I think this is going to be a huge time saver is for people who are working in educational settings. So particularly if you want your students to really analyze a specific data set, just as an example, the Arizona Secretary of State releases their data sets of election data as they finish cleaning them on Kaggle. So if you're a government professor and you want your students to spend some time looking at election data, I don't know, how many of you have done mapping or like GIS stuff in Python or R? Yeah, is it like fast and easy and something you can do in 10 minutes usually? Maybe some of you can, but me, I'm always like, I gotta pick a projection. Oh no, there's no FIPS code. I gotta go get the FIPS code from somewhere. Or, oh, I've gotta hook up a mapping API because I don't have like OpenStreet on whatever I'm doing. So I think this could be a really fast way, particularly for mapping, especially if you want your students to be focusing on the information in the map and not the going through of the mapping. Also, I mentioned dashboards. I love Jupyter. There are some things that Jupyter is really great for dashboarding. There are some things where it's like a little bit less good. So something that, actually, if there's any front-end people in here who would like to contribute to Jupyter, there's an HTML widgets bug that I don't think the core team is going to get to because they're focusing on Jupyter Lab. It's been around for a while. And every so often, different plots will render as 1 pixel by 1 pixel. Has anyone run into this? Anyway, when you're working with interactive plotting libraries, that can happen. And if you run into that, again, it's just in the Jupyter core, and there's nothing I personally can do about it because I'm not a front-end person. If you are, consider making open source contributions on this particular bug that bothers me. But using Data Lab instead is a nice way to work around that. And it's also nice for your teammates who are maybe not so comfortable working with code. I know that a lot of us work in teams with people with a variety of backgrounds and goals. So this is a nice way to reach out and work with them. BigQuery. Who uses BigQuery? Okay, a fair number of people. Who uses like any relational database or SQL in general? Yeah, okay, pretty much everybody. So right now, you can access public BigQuery datasets through Kaggle Kernels. And we've got some very small code examples. I don't know why I thought these screens would be bigger. I think I thought the room would be smaller so everyone would be a little bit closer. So you can create a BigQuery client and run queries. Wow, I should have had a second coffee. And run queries from directly in Kaggle notebooks, and then take that data and work with it locally, save it out as another data set. So if you save any files from a Jupyter notebook, when you commit that notebook, it'll run it top to bottom, and your files will be saved in the output, and you can create a new data set from those. So if you're running a BigQuery, or maybe you have a teammate who's not as familiar with SQL, but they want to use some of the BigQuery public data, you can run the queries, create a data set from them, and then point them to the data set, which is really nice. And if you are perhaps the person who is like, I don't like SQL, or maybe it's been a minute since you used it, we also have a SQL course. Again, very directed. We're not going to get into like, the parse trees of SQL and abstract syntax. We're not doing any of that. It's just basics of query writing, and specifically talking a little bit about BigQuery and how to use it on Kaggle. So if you're a little trepidatious about getting started, we can help you out with that and walk you through it. Just for those of you who didn't know, we have a Kaggle developer survey that we reach out to the machine learning community in large and sort of get information back. And SQL is consistently the third most popular language after Python and R. So if you are not a SQL user and you're working in the machine learning space, that's good to know. Finally, Google Sheets. I really like spreadsheet software. I think I mentioned it before. I think it's a really nice tool set that makes a lot of things very accessible to people because you don't have the cognitive overhead of trying to remember what data structures look like because it's there visually. So I know people dunk on spreadsheet software, but I'm a big fan. So to open data sets in a Google Sheet, you can do that. I don't know if you guys can see. It's under that little sort of hamburger 3-dot menu in the upper right-hand corner. And you can open it as a Google Sheet. It takes just a second, and then it'll pop open. So two places where I think that this might be a sort of a surprising use is first for project management. So if you've got, I mentioned that you can create a data set from the output files you generate in any kernel. So let's say you're working with some competition teammates, you're sort of deciding what your hyperparameter search space is going to be, you generate a file with sort of all the parameters, you create a data set from it, launch it as a sheet, and then you can use that as your sort of base of operations. Color code, who's doing what, you can ping people, so you can be like, this action item is for you, and they'll get an email, which is really nice. So it can be a nice project management tool because I know that that's something that a lot of people struggle with and I see a lot of discussion about on the forum. So if you don't already have one and you're working with other people, Sheets might be a nice integration. And a really hacky one. I'm sorry, guys. This is extremely hacky, but I think would be useful. So one of the ways that people do text data augmentation, so you have a small data set, how can you create new data items for images? You can flip it and rotate it. What does it mean to flip a sentence? It sort of stops becoming language. One way that people do this is they'll translate from English into an unrelated language, like Japanese or Russian, and then back into English, because you'll get sort of like slightly different sentences that are kind of semantically equivalent. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there's actually a Google Translate option in Sheets now. So one way to do this would be to create a data set of the text data you want, open it in Sheets, translate it using Sheets, and then create a new data set from your translated sentences for your data augmentation. I did warn you it was hacky, but potentially very useful if you need to do text augmentation. So those are some of the integrations that we have worked on so far. More to come, TM, veil of secrecy. But there's lots of exciting things that we're working on that I think that you'll really like and find useful. And we really want to make Kaggle a great place to do data science. So I encourage you during the Q&A, I haven't checked the dory, hopefully everyone's asking questions, to let us know your feedback. If there's specific things you want to see, we would love to hear that. We really want to make Kaggle a great tool. I do almost all of my data science work in Kaggle, and personally would like it to be better for selfish reasons. I think it's already very good, but I'd love to hear what else we can do to help you guys. All right, and also there is feedback in the app. So I'm going to wrap it up, and we can take questions.